Hello there and welcome back to another Cloud with Chris weekly vlog. You're with me, Chris Reddington, and here we talk about all things cloud. Now thank you for tuning in. I know this is a little bit off the rhythm that I said I'd be starting with again here. The weekend was quite a hectic one, so I did not have a chance to record, so I figured let's just do a live stream very much at the beginning of the week, and we'll do things slightly differently here today. So, we're going to do the normal kind of roundup here. We're going to talk about the Azure Blog, we're going to talk about Azure Updates, the Azure DevOps blog, GitHub blog, and then move on to what's going on with Cloud with Chris as well. So, hope you're all staying safe and well. It's actually kind of interesting here today. It's just started snowing here this morning, which is kind of interesting for mid-April. I thought we were all done with snow here, but there we go. Apparently we're not, so again, hope you're all staying safe and well with everything going on. And as always, there is obviously a lot of content that I am releasing, so if you do like all of this, please go ahead, like the episodes, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course, whatever platform you're on, whether it's Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, or cloudwithchris.com, please show your appreciation because it really encourages me to do more and keep pushing more content out for you. And with that, there is going to be a lot more content, as we'll see coming up towards the end of this session. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start looking at the screen share here. So, we're going to start off with the Azure blog. So, a few different posts today. The first one from a week ago, talking all about the cloud services extended support model that is now generally available, and there is a migration tool which is in preview as well. And they have a good summary here. They mentioned that the SLA for this service is 99.95%. There's the migration tool in preview, and they talk about some of the highlights here as well. So I think if you are one of those people who's still on some of that cloud services technology, this is a good path forwards for you because, of course, cloud services was one of those first services available in Azure. So it's, you might be using cloud services if you've been in Azure for some time there. So again, if that is you, go ahead, take a look because I think that is one worth being aware of just from a modernization and how you start moving forward with those types of applications there. Next up, just because I think it's super, super cool, is what is going on with Azure Orbital. And what they talk about here is just a bit of an update with the Azure Orbital ground station, some partnerships, and then how you can go ahead and use Azure Orbital from a geospatial perspective. I just find it really fascinating that this is a cloud service. Really, really interesting model to go and do this. It's definitely the as a service approach, right? But now you've got the ground station as a service, which is really, really fascinating, I think. So, yeah, again, just really interesting blog post. Not really doing anything in this space. I just find it really fascinating. So that was another update this week. Next up then, a blog post from leaders in the IoT industry, or rather from manufacturing, who will be using a lot of IoT, I should say. And they have a series that they're launching here about things that they wish that they had known before starting their journey, I guess, with IoT, etc. And they call out a few great summaries here. So have realistic goals and expectations, agree on basic standards and technology needs, get buy-in from your leaders and employees. So if you're going on your IoT journey and wondering how you make sure that it's a successful one, go ahead and read that blog post. I'm sure there'll be some interesting insights for you to glean into there. And then we have a blog post all about insights on running business critical applications on Azure. So what they talk about here is some of the considerations again. So security and compliance, performance, low latency, all of these kind of things. And they talk about a series of different parts that they're going to be breaking out, I think, webinars into. Yes, indeed, it is a series of webinars actually. So you can go ahead if you're planning to go ahead and run some business critical workloads and you want to find out about transitioning them to the cloud, scaling maybe a data analytics platform, and running an ERP workload on Azure as well, then go ahead, take a look at the blog post there as well. Okay, so in terms of the Azure updates this week, there weren't actually too many this week, so this will be quite a quick roundup. The first couple relate to the cloud services deployment model that we just talked about. So the public preview of the migration service or the migration platform to enable that, and then also the GA of the service itself. Public preview of Azure Monitor Container Insight support for Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes extension model. Very excited about that one, being able to just use the kind of extension model approach that we're used to with AKS, but for Azure Arc. I think that's pretty cool. Start VM on Connect feature for Windows Virtual Desktop. I'm not a big Windows Virtual Desktop aficionado. That's not really my area of expertise, but from a cost perspective, I really see the benefits of that. So I think that's a great feature to come in there. Public preview of Azure Purview is now available in Central India. Azure Automation is now available in South India. Azure AD B2C in Australia is available in public preview, and public preview of announcing Azure STIG solution templates to accelerate compliance for DoD. So again, Department of Defense kind of scenarios there. And that's it for the updates this week. As I say, quite lightweight in terms of the updates that are available. And even on the Azure DevOps blog side as well, it's quite lightweight. So the first one here is an introduction to Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB is one of those services that I think is absolutely brilliant. And I've used it for some of my own pet projects. I was actually preparing last week for some of the serverless open hacks that Microsoft offer. Really, really good open hacks. So actually, if you have an opportunity to get onto that, definitely I would recommend taking a look at it, because I think there's a great blend of services in there that feature, and I think it's very, very relevant if you're thinking about that integration scenario and serverless in general. But going back to the Cosmos DB session, again, I think a brilliant service. NoSQL is an interesting path forwards for your data storage approach. So go ahead, if you haven't quite had the chance to explore Cosmos DB yet, this could help you along your journey there. Next up then, and this was another interesting blog post that is really a passionate area for me, I guess. So this is written by one of the GitHub folks, John Bohannon, and published by Stephen Moravsky, all about building your first GitHub action. So what they talk about is going through the approaches from the very beginning, designing the UX, coding it, planning it, and then how you can get started with some example templates that are out there, which have some example tests out there for you as well, these kind of things. And then you can go ahead and trial the action out and then eventually publish it to the GitHub marketplace. It's really interesting, actually. There are some things in here I hadn't appreciated about how the Azure login task action, I should say, actually works. For example, they give an example here of making an upload to Azure Blob storage action and being able to pull in the credentials from the Azure login step a bit earlier. So actually that's pretty cool. I hadn't appreciated that. So if you're someone who is thinking, oh geez, I wish there was some more Azure GitHub actions available, and you're comfortable with a bit of coding, a bit of Azure CLI, and getting into the weeds a little bit, maybe take a look. You could be helping out the community there as well. So really, really good blog post. I really enjoyed reading that one, actually, and I'm probably gonna, when I get a few moments time, have a look at writing up some of these actions as well, actually. So yeah, go and take a look at that one. Really interesting one. Then finally, of course, another roundup from the community. A few blog posts this week. One on Azure DevOps with Azure NetApp Files, which I thought was a very interesting combination. I love seeing the off the beaten path kind of posts. So this one where it's very much the infrastructure side of things. NetApp files I thought was interesting. Create a secure GitHub webhook to trigger an Azure PowerShell function. Building CI/CD for Angular static websites, or web apps I should say, using Azure DevOps. How to run SQLized migrations in Azure pipelines. And how to create a personal access token with Azure DevOps as well. And then finally, on the GitHub side, there were a few blog posts this week, but I think 3 or 4 of them were fairly broad. Some of them were on Safe Harbor, for example. Some of them were on the rulings around Google and Oracle, which we won't really explore. I don't think it's the most relevant for this particular channel, but if you're interested, they are there. One that I thought was kind of interesting and caught my eye was all about how GitHub actually scale their API, and they talk about some of the principles they use, like sharding, replicated rate limiter in Redis, for example. So you can see the caching aspect there and the sharding aspect from a design pattern as well. So what they talk about there is the scenario, the current context at the time, what they were using, what they were proposing, and then some of the challenges they had along the way as well, and the various fixes, and then eventually what the actual final script looks like for that as well. So again, really, really interesting. I love the fact that GitHub is so open about some of their engineering practices, and would love to see more of this, actually. I just find it fascinating reading some of the real world scenarios behind it and how they go and approach it there. And then another one, actually fairly engineering related, and what they talk about is their new authentication token format. So they are changing how they actually go and authenticate tokens. They're now I guess tiering is the wrong word, but they're moving towards some standards that other companies are using in the industry, like Slack and Stripe, for example, to make some of these tokens really identifiable. So they're having some of these consistent and identifiable prefixes. So whether it's a personal access token, an OAuth token, a user to server, server to server, or a refresh token there as well. And then they're talking about how they're using checksum, token entropy, and overall what this means to you. So again, just an interesting behind the scenes around their thoughts there. So go ahead and have a look at that one if you're interested in that evolution. And another thing that I love, again, somewhat from an engineering perspective, is how transparent they are and their availability reports as well. So they detail here the issues that they've had over the month that impacted their availability, what happened, and then how they're mitigating that issue moving forward. So a nice roundup there, I think. There we go. So let's now move on to Cloud with Chris for this week. Again, a busy week as always. So the first one here is all about using Microsoft Learn to get started with Azure. So that was a nice bite-sized video all about Microsoft Learn and how you can and how you should maybe use that for your Azure learning journey, and not just Azure, of course. We've got things like Dynamics, Microsoft 365, and other platforms as well on there. So go ahead and check out Microsoft Learn, and especially this video if you haven't already, because I really see this becoming a hub where, if you think about some of the certification pieces as well, for example, now coming out, it's really empowering that journey there. So go ahead and take a look at that. Then on Tuesday, I was speaking at the Northern Azure User Group. So the other attendee was Scott Hanselman there, the other speaker. Scott gave a brilliant talk, and actually that's the basis for some of my blog posts this week. And yes, I said blog posts plural, so we'll come back to that in a bit. And then I gave my talk on how GitHub can help in planning, building, and deploying a podcast or blog site, and it went down very well. Scott Hanselman is obviously a tough act to follow, but I had some great feedback, so thank you very much for everyone who was there. Really appreciate the questions, the interaction, and I hope you found the session valuable, and I will be doing more of those coming up soon as well, so we'll talk about those in a little bit. Then on Wednesday, the latest installment of Cloud Gaming Notes, talking all about inventory and economy with Lee Williams once again. And brilliant session. I think that there is just so much to talk about in this type of session. And I love some of the themes that we're drawing out, particularly around community and how gaming is all about building these communities now rather than just building a game and delivering a game. We're now building communities. So check that one out. I really enjoyed that one, and there was some really great insights and discussion there, I felt. And if you haven't noticed as well, by the way, later in the month from Microsoft, there is a GameStack live conference for a couple of days, a virtual conference. I signed up to it last week because I'm just fascinated by some of the technologies which go into cloud gaming. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to go and make this series, because I'm sure there are others like me who find this interesting. So if that's you, go ahead and check out that conference because, again, I think there's going to be some interesting insights from that one as well. Also on Wednesday then, a blog post about Windows Terminal. So you're going to start seeing a bit of a theme here with my blogs. If I go ahead and release some content, maybe as a Cloud Drops, maybe as a podcast episode, for example, what I'm going to do is try and make sure that I also blog about it as well, because one of the things from the recent session that we did around getting into blogging and getting into community content and contributions is that I realized people digest things in different ways, and I want to make sure, I've mentioned a few times, that my site is accessible as possible. So if you prefer reading, then I'm going to hopefully have a blog post there for you, as well as the more interactive video piece. Now, of course, that's quite a big undertaking, so I'm going to have a bit of a backlog, but that is my ambition, that is my aim. So on that point, I am going to now start ramping up to trying to have 2 blog posts coming out a week, ideally on the Monday, and ideally on the Wednesday is what I am planning. So that's the aim. We'll see how we get on. As I mentioned in my blog post, which will be coming up today, don't set yourself up for failure. Don't go too quickly. Just make adjustments over time and learn what is right for you in terms of a cadence and a pattern. This is me doing a bit of an experiment, so I might completely change my mind after doing this, but absolutely feel free to go and experiments with these cadences and what works for you. So yeah, this was quite a fun one to write, all about Windows Terminal, and just pulling together a few things that I found in various places and a few tips that I was aware of as well, and how it can make you productive with Azure, more importantly. And then on Friday, I released a episode for Architecting in the Cloud, one pattern at a time. This time it was one pattern, talking all about the bulkhead pattern. And I know the screenshot or the thumbnail for the YouTube video has got some love, actually, because it's got a drawing on it. So go ahead, check out the bulkhead pattern. I think it's quite a catchy caption, this one. Do you know what caused the Titanic to sink? It was poorly designed bulkheads. How can you make sure that you ensure resilience between components in your cloud application? Effectively designed bulkheads. So go ahead, check out the bulkhead pattern if that's of interest. So then this week, what is coming up? Obviously, the weekly vlog is what we're recording right now, weekly vlog 15. And then later today, I will release a blog post. Wednesday, there'll be another blog post as well. And you will notice that there are no other sessions scheduled for this week. There's a reason for that. I'm actually going to be super, super busy this week with Global Azure. So on Friday, I'm going to be live streaming. So rather than a pre-recorded session that I'm releasing, it's actually going to be a talk. It's going to be interactive. I'm going to be part of the Global Azure virtual conference. So you can go ahead on my website and click on the links and check out the sessions there. It will take you directly to the YouTube link. Or alternatively, you can go to the Global Azure website as well, and you'll get linked to the same YouTube streaming link as well. So I'll be going live on Friday, 6 p.m. UK time, and then Saturday, I think it was 1 or 1:30 UK time. But again, the schedule is on the conference website, the Global Azure website. So go ahead, check that out. There's going to be such amazing content. I think it goes over the 15th, the 16th, 17th, or maybe the 16th, 17th, 18th. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of content for you to digest if you're looking to go and do some learning this coming week and this coming weekend there. So would love your support in that, and would love to see a few friendly faces on the stream as well. And that is it. So let's go back and just wrap up things here. So there we go. What a fun session that was. Plenty to go ahead and digest there. So, you know what I'm going to ask. If you've liked this session, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell on YouTube, because I'm still finding about 90% of my viewers are people who have no affiliation to the channel at all. So I am currently running just under 400 subscribers. So I'm very, very close to that 400 subscriber milestone. And I want to get to 500 by the end of the year, of course. So would love your support getting there. If you do like the content, please share out on your own platforms. Please do share to other folks that you think some of this content might be interesting, so they know about the content that I'm making as well. And of course, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and cloudwithchris.com are the other platforms where I am on as well. So with that, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for watching. And until next week's episode, or until the live stream on Friday, stay safe and bye for now.